All right, welcome to my YouTube channel. Now, this is A Square Maths Made Easy Academy. Now, I want to play around with you guys today and keep you a particular question that you will enjoy your weekend with. Now, we're going to consider a situation, how to find the domain and range of a function when it involves what? Square root. When it involves what? Square root. Now, can we take a look at this question? Please watch this video from the beginning to the end. Subscribe, then comment in the comment section, then share it. Let's go. Now, look at this wonderful question. The question says, find the domain and range of function of x. This is called function of what? X, which is equal to square root of 1 minus what? X. Now, what do we actually do here? I want you to understand one thing first. Now, when you are looking for domain and range of a function, especially when it involves what? A square root form, it has shortcut method, which I will still teach you, and also have the normal what? Method. But I want you to understand this. When you are given something like this, watch, s is greater than or equal to minus 1. Now, what does this thing imply? The word greater than simply means that x tends to what? Positive what? Infinity. And it must start from 1, which is this equal to. So how do I express this using interval what? Notation symbol. I want you to watch. This is how we do it. Now, since it's tending to greater, is greater and intending to positive what? Infinity, I will start with the value that is given, which is 1 here. And because 1 is a member, which is the presence of what? Equal to, I will choose what? Block, like this, and introduce what? 1. Now, the meaning of this simply means that 1 is a member, then comma. The next thing is, how will it tend to? Is it negative infinity or positive what? Infinity? I said before it's positive what? Infinity. Then I'll put positive what? Infinity. Don't mind me, in positive infinity, please don't always put block. When you put block, it means that infinity has what? An end. So what do we choose to do here? You introduce what we call what? Bracket. Bracket means that it continues till infinity. It has no what? End. Now, this is exactly what this thing reflects under what? Inequality. Then some of you may ask me this question now. What brought about this? The reason is because we are trying to figure out how to identify the domain and the what? Range of a particular word function. And you must always approach it like this. Am I communicating? Now, what if peradventure we have something like this? X is less than or equal to 1. How do we represent it using interval notation? This is called interval what? Notation symbol. Now, watch this. Since x is less than, the question is, where is x tending to? It is tending to negative what? Infinity. Now, but because it is less than or equal to 1, it still implies that 1 is a member. 1 is what? A member. But this time around, since it's less than, I will start with brackets minus infinity. Are you with me now? Then comma. Remember, is x is less than or equal to 1, so which means it stops at 1. I will now put 1, then use block. The essence of using that block simply means that 1 is also what? A member. These are the criteria that we use to determine the domain and range of a particular word function. Am I communicating now? Now, let's see how we can progress. But let me assume maybe something like this is given to you now. Look at this question. Now, watch this. Can you see that this one has a boundary? Now, what does it imply? That minus 1 is less than what? X. Then, if minus 1 is less than x, it simply means that x should be greater than what? Minus 1. But less than or equal to what? 3. How do we represent it like this? Now, this particular expression now has nothing to do with negative infinity and positive what? Infinity, because it is within the word range. Then let's take off. Now we start with x is greater than minus 1. Now I want you to observe this minus 1. Is there anything equality sign there? No. Which means minus 1 is not a member. Then I will use bracket and introduce minus 1, comma. Then the last of it is this, that x is less than or equal to 3. Can you observe this? There is an equality word sign. So because of that, I will now write 3. Are you with me? Then I introduce block. Why? Because 3 is what? A member. So these are the approaches that we are going to use in order to determine the range and domain of a particular word function. Am I communicating now? Now let us solve this particular problem. Now, just like I said, after solving it, I'm going to show you diverse ways you can approach this to find the domain and range of what? A function, especially when it is in a square root word form. You know, some have been saying a square, when you have a full lecture note about calculus, I told them they should relax, that I'm coming, and they will understand it. Now, I'm just trying to pick some questions so that we can solve it. So by the time I begin to lecture you, everything that has to do with calculus, you will be able to appreciate all. So let us fire on now. Now watch. I want you to understand something here. Very simple. Now, if you observe this particular function, now watch. I told you before that another way of writing f of x is what? Y. And y is now equal to square root of 1 minus what? X. Now, x in a function is called domain. It's called what? Domain. Are you with me? Domain. While y in a function is called the range. It's called the what? Range. Now, which means anytime you are identifying the domain of what? A function, you are going to consider what we call a real number. A real number can tell you whether it's tending to negative infinity or positive what? Infinity. Now, what is a real number? A real number is a set of rational and what? Irrational what? Numbers. Am I communicating now? So what am I trying to understand? Now, you can define a real number mathematically like this. Bracket minus infinity, comma, plus what? Infinity bracket. This is a definition of what? A real number. And we also use it to identify the domain and range of a particular word function. So are you ready to listen to what I'm going to unveil here now? Can we watch? Now let's start. How do we appreciate the range and also the domain of what? A function. I am going to show you 2 ways you can do that, and you will enjoy it. Now, what do you do first? Now, observe this. If you observe this particular function now, I told you that x is your what? Domain. And y is your what? Range. So, which means the result of a function is called the range, which is y. Now, let me ask you a simple question. Anytime you are given a particular x, what do we do? What we will do is to frame it when x is 0. After that, we now consider when x is greater. When you say x is greater than 0 now, it means that it starts from 1, 2, 3. These are positive what? Real numbers. Then when you are done, you now proceed again to what we call negative what? Real numbers. When x is less than what? 0. Now let me show you how to solve this particular what? Question. Now watch. All you are going to do is very simple. If you observe this particular x now, you find out that it is only the highest number of x here for this square root to exist is only but what? When x is what? 1. Do you agree with me? Do you know why I say so? The highest number that can exist as far as domain x is concerned is to consider x to be what? 1. Because if you consider x to be 1 and insert it here, it will produce a result. And that result I'm talking about is what we call the range. What we call the what? Range. Now, if I move again when x is 2, there is a problem. Do you know why? By the time I remove x and fix in 2, it will not become square root of 1 minus 2. And 1 minus 2 will give you square root of what? Minus 1. Can you see that such a thing does not exist as far as real number is what concerned? So which means the maximum value of the domain, which is your x, as far as this particular question is concerned, is when x is what? 1. Have I made myself clear? Now it is obvious now. Can we continue now? So what do we do? So when x is 1, anywhere we consider what? X, remove it and introduce what? 1. And the result of what we are going to generate now will give you what we call y. And y is called the what? Range. Oh yeah, let's go. So I will now say that y is now equal to square root of, I have with me 1 minus, what is x? Hope is 1, right? When x is 1. Then if I continue, it will give me square root of what? 1 minus 1 will give you what? 0. And square root of 0 is what? 0. Can you now see, when the value of the domain is 1, what is the range? The range is what? 0. Have I made myself clear? Remember, I'm not going to increase the domain again to 2, but rather I will do what? Decrease. I will now say when x should be equal to 0 now. Can you see that when x is 0 as the domain, it also implies that this particular expression exists. Then can we substitute now? I will now go again and say y is now equal to square root of, have I made myself clear? What is here? 1. Then minus, we said when x is what? 0. So which means I will remove this x and introduce what? 0. Then it will now give me this. Square root of 1 minus 0 will give me what? 1. And what is the square root of 1? Square root of 1 should be what? 0. Are you with me now? Now can you see that now when the domain is x, when the domain x is what? 0. What is the range y? 0. Now let's continue again and observe something here. I mean not 0, please. I mean square root of 1 is what? 1. I beg your pardon. Now I take it again. When the domain x is 0, are you with me now? Now what is the value of y? The value of y, which is the range, is what? 1. Do you know that with this now, I have already known how to identify the domain and the range of what? A function. So what do we do again? I will now consider, if you want to try again, when x should be minus 1. Can you observe this now again? So what do? We will now substitute again to have y to be equal to then square root of, anywhere we see x again, remove it and put minus what? 1. So it will now give me 1 minus then minus 1, which will now give me square root of 1. What is minus minus? Is it not plus? So it becomes plus what? 1. Then I can now say that the value of y now should be square root of 1 plus 1 will give you 2. And I believe when you punch square root of 2, it may give you something like this, 1.1, something like that, which is bigger than this number. Am I communicating now? Do you now see that I don't need again to verify the domain and the range? It is obvious now. Now observe what is happening here. Can you see under the domain, the first value of x is what? 1. The second one is what? 0. The third one, x, is minus 1. Can you see that the domain is decreasing? The domain is what? Decreasing. Am I communicating? So, but the highest value of the domain should be what? 1. So it's decreasing. And where is it decreasing? It's tending to negative what? Infinity. Because the word decrease means it is what? Infinity. Negative infinity. Then let us observe the result of the what? Range. The first one is y is what? 0. Are you with me? Another one again is what? 1. Another y again is 1 point something. Now, what do you observe from the range now? Is it increasing or decreasing? I believe that it is what? Increasing. Do you know why? From the range, the minimum value of the range is what? 0. It increases to what? 1. Increases to 1.1 something if you put the square root of 2. Then my question is this. Where is it tending to? Is it negative infinity or positive infinity? I believe it is positive what? Infinity, because it's greater. Can you now see we have gotten the value of what? The domain and the what? Range. Am I communicating? Then how do we do it? I want us to watch now. Very simple. So which means the values of x, they are what? 1, comma what? Watch. We have 0, are you with me? Comma what? Minus 1. And continues. While the value of y starts from what? Watch here. 0, right, comma, followed by 1, comma, followed by 1.1, then continues. Now with this, I have already seen the domain of f and the range of what? F. Am I communicating now? Then let me say something here now. The answer have already appeared. Then watch. So looking at the scenario now, what we are going to do now is this. We now start with domain of what? F. Domain of f, now what is it? Now watch. Remember we say it is decreasing now. Where? Negative or infinity. I am going to start with brackets minus infinity. Am I communicating now? Then it stops at 1 because 1 is the maximum value of what? Domain. So which means I'll put here 1. And because 1 is a member, use block. Use what? Block. Am I communicating now? So another way you can write it is like this. Domain of f is set of x, watch, such that x is a member of real number. I have explained what a real number is. Whereby x is what? Less than or equal to 1. Can you see it? Less than and what? Equal to what? 1. So which means it stops at 1 and it decreases to where? Negative what? Infinity. You can have it like this. You can have it like this. It's still the same thing. Then let's work out the range. Range is R of what? F. Are you with me? Now imagine the range. Now look at it. 0 increase to 1, increase to 1.2. Can you see that now? The range is increasing. Increasing means greater than. And where is it increasing to? It is increasing to what? Positive what? Infinity. Then let us start with the least number of the range. What's the least number of the range? 0. So which means I will use block and introduce what? 0, comma. Going to where? Positive infinity. I will now use plus what? Infinity. Then use bracket. Can you see? It is obvious now. Then if you cannot find it like this, you can also express it in set form. That range of what? F is now equal to, in replacement now I will not say x again. I will fix in what? Y. Is such that y is a member of real number. Are you with me now? Where the value of y is greater than, can you see? Greater than or equal to what? 0. This is exactly how to identify the square root of range and domain of what? A function. So which means in summary, if it is objective now, watch. All I'm going to do is very simple. I will now say that, look at how it's going to represent it, like in option now. Since the question said domain and what? Range. Look at the domain. I will say bracket minus infinity, comma, followed by what? 1. Then use what? Block. Am I communicating? Then and there. Are you with me now? So, or you then may call it comma. Then what is the range? Look at the range. Block what? 0, comma. Then plus what? Positive what? Infinity bracket. This is exactly what you see in the option. If it is obedient. That is simple as that. Now remember that this is how to determine the domain and range of a square root word function. When the power of x here is 1. What if it is no longer 1 minus x? It becomes square root of 1 plus what? X. You will see that in my next video. I will be able to explain better. Do you understand? Now let me say something again that will strike you or that will shock you. I want you to watch. Okay, that is just the fact. Are you with me now? Look at another secret or another way. Now, this way is just simple also. Now, watch. We want to consider what? The domain of this particular word function. Now, remember, there is a condition. Look up. The condition is this. is always a square root of what? 1 minus what? X. Are you with me? Greater than or equal to what? 0. Now, if 1 minus x should be greater than or equal to 0, we have square root of this, right? Now, if I'm to square both sides, do you know that what remains exactly now? This square root will disappear. Am I communicating? I will now say square root of 1 minus x, then all squared greater than or equal to 0 square, which is what? 0. Now, this square root will cancel this power 2. What do you think that is remaining? I'll have with me 1 minus x greater than or equal to what? 0. Am I communicating? Now, our target now is to make what? X subject of the word formula. Now, here is plus, right? What do I do here in order to make x what alone? I will now say add, subtract. Not add, subtract. Minus 1 across. Are you with me? Minus 1 what? Across. So which means to the left, to the right, introduce minus 1. Why? Because 1 here possesses a positive word value. I will now say 1 minus x. The Lord said introduce minus 1. Then greater than or equal to 0, then introduce minus 1. Can you now see that 1 we go with minus 1? So left with minus x greater than or equal to, are you there? Then 0 minus 1 will give us minus what? 1. Now, what do you think that we observe here? Remember, there is a condition under what? Inequality. We want to make x subject of the word formula. And the condition is this, be very careful. What is the coefficient of x here? Hope is minus 1. Now, if you want to make x subject, the law is that when the coefficient of x under inequality is minus, what you are going to do, undivided, the sign of the inequality will change. If it is greater, it will change to less. If it is less, it will change to what? Greater. Now let's go. What's the coefficient here? Minus 1. I will now divide both sides by minus 1. Divide here by also minus 1. So that minus can cancel what? Minus. X over 1 will give you what? X. This greater now will change to less. Are you with me? Less or equal to. Minus will cancel minus. Then this one is what? 1. Can you now see? I have seen the domain already. Because it is less, it means that it is tending to negative what? Infinity. And the maximum value of the domain of x here is what? 1. How do I program it? I will now say that the domain of f is now equal to bracket minus infinity comma. Then I'll put what? 1 and introduce what? Block. This is what we call what? Domain. Then how do we generate the range? Remember, we have known that the maximum value of x is what? 1. So which means from the equation, anywhere we see x, plug it out, remove it and introduce what? 1. At the end, you get the range. Now, the question you ask yourself now is that I am not going to introduce x to be 2. It is wrong again because the maximum value of x is what? 1. So which means I will decrease in order to get the second range. Am I communicating now? Now, this is exactly how to solve problems like this. Now, another way by which we can get it easily without stress again when it is OBJ, which means the domain first, is very simple. Do you want to know it? I say, do you want to know it? Oh yeah, watch. Now, what do you do? Very simple. All you need to do is that in as much as the coefficient of what? X is what? Minus. X is what? Minus 1. Then consider this one that is written here. Say it is positive. Are you with me? What you will do is to get the conjugate of 1. What is the conjugate of 1? Is minus what? 1. Am I communicating? What is minus 1? Are you with me now? Now, if it is minus 1, now watch this. Very, very simple. Now, what do you do? It is obvious. I cannot use minus 1 again to amplify the domain of f. Now, what am I going to do? Since that this one already produces what? Negative. Am I communicating now? You should be able to understand that. Are you with me now? That this particular one now should be what? Positive. Look at the coefficient of s is what? Negative. Negative. Are you with me now? So what I'm going to do now is to consider that the value of x here, should be what? 1. How? Because of the coefficient of x is minus x. Am I communicating? So this x now should be what? 1. So which means domain of f is now equal to, are you with me now? Are you with me? So since it is negative, it means that it is less than. So it is less than means that it is going towards negative what? Infinity. I will now say bracket minus infinity. Why? Because of this minus. Am I communicating? And the last value of x is 1. I will now say comma what? 1 and use what? Block. So this is also how to verify the domain of what? F. See you in my next what? Video, where we will consider how to find the domain range of f of x when this one changes to what? Plus. What do we exactly get? Thank you so much. Once again, I remain what? A squared. Bye.